Welcome back to another Cafecito Chats. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking about how to successfully transition into a new career field. And with that being said, first of all, you have to determine and identify that you want to switch. The next step that I think has to happen is you got to determine what skills are transferable to that particular new field or new career or new job. And then finally, you have to be able to one, gain or build credibility or relevant experience, rather, relevant experience in order to enter into that new field and that career. So when this topic came about because there's been a couple individuals that I talked to over the last couple weeks that have indicated that they've transitioned from engineering into other fields, which is great. But I was thinking, well, this will be a great conversation as to how they identified and how they determined what and how they wanted to transition, what skills literally are transferable and how they adapted to it and how they gained some of that experience in order to transition, right? Many of us are in STEM here, and we definitely focus on engineering, we focus on being in the industry.
Sorry.
But at some point, we end up deciding to possibly transition into something else that maybe along the road interests us a little more and maybe a little bit more lucrative if that's what you're looking for, or more appealing to us depending on where you're at in your life stage, right? So with that, I'm gonna see if let me see. Diego, you're just starting your career, and being an early career professional, you're probably really happy where you're at. But I want you to think hypothetically. What would you do if you wanted to transition to a
Okay.
different field, and how would you go about doing
Okay.
that from your
Thank you very
perspective,
much.
sir?
Well, hmm. I guess, well, I will, okay. First things first is, tap into my network. And, I don't want to make a, rash decision. So, I would, even if I'm thinking about it, I would talk to people in whatever field I'm looking for and, ask them questions, have informational interviews. Yeah. And then after I have those informational interviews, and once I get the information that I want, then I can start, going through the decision process and deciding like, okay, like is this the best decision for me? And so yeah, so but I think the key first step is definitely reaching out to people and asking and getting more information in the field that you want to get into.
Okay, awesome. Great information, great insight. Lourdes Sarmiento, maybe a month or so ago, you mentioned that we were talking about retirement, and you mentioned that you're thinking about retiring and maybe not working in the industry for such a very long period of time. I want to ask if you have considered, thought about, you did mention maybe opening a little store or some sort of business. So that's more of a transition to some extent. But I want you to consider if you were to transition or switch careers, what would you have to consider first before actually leaving your current field? Lourdes?
For me, it's more of the pros and cons, like the benefits, right? Does it give me more flexibility? Is that the thing I actually want? Or maybe it's like fully remote, so I can work from home and I'm able to travel more. Also, the research, I would focus more on how reliable is that type of job and the job security with it, because I feel like sometimes during expansion or something new in technology, they overhire a lot. And within a year or 2 years, that's kind of done and dealt with. Like you saw in COVID, right?
Hmm.
With like software engineers and stuff. And now they're being laid off for the past year or 2 years, just consistent layoffs. And they're having to struggle. It was a desired career, it was a desired skill, but now the corporate side is oversaturated. So now they're going to have to pivot and find something else, or so more of that. You can read like LinkedIn news or just keep up with the economic side of things to see if the industry is reliable. That would be my research.
So looking at what more or less the field and the industry is, in need of instead of oversaturation to some extent. Different question to you, Lourdes. A little follow on. Let's say you do all the research and you say, yeah, I want to pivot. And let's say that you're in STEM field and all of a sudden you don't really want to be in the STEM field anymore. You want to go into real estate, which is what another person actually told me that they were pursuing. What skills, are transferable from being a STEM individual to possibly going into real estate? And along with that, what are the steps of actually acquiring some of the relevant skills that you need to be in real estate?
Um, yeah, I would say obviously you need some sort of certification. I think it's like certain hours, take a test, and all this stuff. But some of the skills that can transfer is just your technical knowledge, the way you're able to describe the house or display the house or talk about some cool features about it and kind of show that enthusiasm that could be a selling point. Because at the end of the day, real estate is very like a people type of business. You got to be friendly, you got to be able to sell, you gotta have conversations and be welcoming and stuff, which is kind of really different from engineering, because you don't have to have those soft skills per se, but it's something you can either work on or have. Um, Also, the management skills that it's easily transferable, ability to schedule things, ability to like have meetings, lay out your day the way it's supposed to go between office, taking the calls, emails, scheduling things, and just I feel like there's a lot of skills that transfer after a while. Within 5 years or so, you're looking at management, you're looking at how to manage people, how to be there for them, whether that is professional or personal. In real estate, it's a lot of that too.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that insight. Switch over to Alex Polo. You were mentioning earlier that you're in a convention over in Arizona. Is that? I see a lot of people over there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, tell us what's going on over in the convention, and also kind of run us down from your perspective what steps are needed in order for an individual to determine when they really want to pivot or switch career fields.
Yeah, so at this convention, it's called the Semicon West. They focus on the semiconductor industry, so it's all these engineering companies that make the microchips. They process the wafers, make the wafers, uh, and all that. So you could, make your cell phone, whatever. This whole industry, it revolves around that. So lots of, like I said, old industry friends here and everything. So yeah, came to say hi to them and also let them know about the new thing I'm doing. And for me, this is actually, I would say, the third time in my career that I try something different. So when I graduated UCSD in 2000, I went to a company called THK, and I was an applications engineer there. So I would help the salespeople with their customers figure out, what parts were applicable to the designs, whatever machine they were trying to build, and all that. And then after 3 years, my boss, he told me you should go into sales, and I told him no, I don't know about sales. That's not for me. And then he kept insisting a couple more times, and then I finally said, "Oh, this guy's not going to give up on me. I should just try it and see how it goes." And I did that, and turned out to be something that I really enjoyed, and I continued to do that until just last week. uh, but the other thing I also tried in my career was going to law school. So I did go to law school in 2012 because I was thinking, okay, I'm an engineer, so I think I could do patent law, and I went to law school. Uh, it's a 3-year program, full time, but I only did 2 years, and then I said, "Oh, this is not for me," because during that time I was able to meet patent attorneys, and they showed me what the career was about and all that, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to be enjoying this. So I came back to my career for sales engineering, and then now this opportunity in the financial industry came up. It actually came up about a year and a half ago, and I kind of have been just been learning about it and how it works and all that. Haven't really done much, and the reason I hadn't really done much is because my my company, that was my engineering company, absorbed me completely. So doing the sales, visiting customers, doing reports, and all that, didn't have time to do this other thing. So that's why I decided to resign and just dedicate myself to this full time now. So, uh, I mean, to know that you're ready for new change, I guess it just sometimes happens accidentally, like it happened to me for the sales thing, where my boss kept asking me. I didn't know I was gonna like it, but I guess he saw something in me that he said, "Okay, this guy's could do it." And so he trusted me. He mentored me as well. So that's good to always have a mentor in whatever new field you're gonna be moving to. And and then for me, law school, I will say that I just jumped right into it. And then after being in there, I realized that it wasn't for me. If I would have like researched it more, I think I would have maybe not gone to law school if I had met some patent attorneys before that. So, but in the sales and now in the financial, I was like slowly got into it. So that's a better approach than just jumping straight into it.
Okay, so you have a little more experience with jumping straight into it and kind of easing your way into the actual field. So from THK and THK, you didn't really change completely in fields, right? From what you're mentioning, you were within that same industry, however, different position, different demands for that. As far as skills, being an applications engineer, very technical, and then
Mm-hmm.
transitioning over to sales, what skills were transferable from that?
So I will say all of them because the product is a very technical product. So you have to, when you're selling to somebody, you have to know your product. And the reason THK has applications engineers is because most of the salespeople, they're not technical. So so it's very hard for them to explain the product to an engineer at a company. So they brought the applications engineer along to explain the product, all the technical benefits and all the aspects and all that. So when I went into sales, I just had to learn the sales side, and I already knew all the technical aspects of the product.
So going into sales, you probably started learning and engaging more in the contract writing, the financial aspect, which kind of leads to this new position or this new venture that you're pursuing, right? You did mention that until last week, you
Yes.
essentially were working as a salesperson. All of a sudden, it didn't happen overnight. So you started pursuing and going to some networking, I'm assuming, and some additional financial advising meetings, meeting financial advisors, getting immersed in that. Can you walk us through that last year and a half that you started pursuing that kind of like a hobby, and all of a sudden, when and how did you say, maybe I really want to jump into this? And what benefit did you see? Referring back to Lourdes, the freedom, the flexibility, maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, actually, so about a year and a half ago, I I was approached on LinkedIn, and this is a good reason to have an updated LinkedIn profile with all your skills and everything. So, a recruiter from a company called Northwestern Mutual, which is a financial company, uh, contacted me, and they're like, "We want to interview you for a position at our company." And I was like, "Okay, uh, what for? I don't have any experience in financial industry." And then she said, "Yes, but you do have a lot of experience in sales, and that's what we're looking for." She said, "The financial will teach you. You'll be able to pass your state test to get your license. We'll train you, and you don't need to know the products at the beginning. You'll learn them along the way. But we have all the support team here that if you find a client, you can just bring them to our support team, and they'll be able to figure out what they need." So that kind of was the same thing that happened when my boss asked me to go to sales. So unfortunately, I mean, I went through the whole interview process with Northwestern Mutual, but at the end, they wanted me full time, and I was like, I can't do full time because I have my career, my sales engineering career, and I don't want to leave that. Can I do part time? They said, unfortunately, not. So that was the end of that. But then that left a little seed in my head, and so I'm like, there's got to be somebody that can allow you to do this part time, and that's where I found this new company I'm in called WSV, and I started going to their trainings, and they have free financial education for everyone, which is what I'm promoting now on LinkedIn. If you see my profile, I'm asking people if you want free financial education, contact me. So all that I did, and then I realized that it could be a career for me. Uh, I didn't decide to jump on it right away because uh, I felt, yeah, what if it happens the same as law school? Then I'll be sorry again. And so I gave it about a year and a half until I finally decided that I should do this full time to be the most successful. And so now I'm here, and we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go over to Lourdes. She has a question, and I'll get back to you with another question following that.
Sure, sure.
Lourdes.
No, I just had something to say, just like Polo said, with LinkedIn and the importance of LinkedIn. A few people have reached out to me saying, "Hey, do you want this type of job? You're one of the top applicants. Like, let's do an interview and stuff." And I'm like, "Thank you for the opportunity, but not right now." Sometimes some of my friends are looking for a job, so I'm like, "But I highly recommend this person," and I share that information with my close friends so they can apply and they have a better. And sometimes I do a personal recommendation on their behalf, so they have a better chance and stuff. So LinkedIn is the key, like Polo said.
Awesome,
Correct.
Lourdes. Thank you for that little parentheses there. So going back to you, Alex Porlo, you mentioned that year and a half. So I want to explore the time frame. Last week, you just mentioned last week is literally when you resigned, right? So you use that word. So I'm literally assuming that you went up to your boss and you say, after X number of years with the company as a sales rep for you, I found out that I really want to pursue a different venture. One, how did that conversation go, right? I'm assuming, and also I'm assuming you didn't burn any bridges. So if you need to
No,
come
no.
back, you're going to be able to come back. The second question, so that's the first question. The second question would be, how and at what point, because after a year and a half of going to the training sessions with the company WBS, I think that's what you mentioned.
WSB, sorry.
Okay. and
So,
and how did you at what point did you just wake up and say, I'm ready to take that next step and tell my boss I'm leaving? So
yeah. Yeah, good question. Uh, so what's funny is that I first talked to my boss about resigning at the middle of August, and I gave my 2 week notice. But then I didn't get any response from my boss for about a month. Like, I think he didn't want me to leave. So in the middle of September, I went up to him again, and I'm like, hey, I gave my resignation a month ago. What's going on? So yeah, okay, all right. Anyway, we arranged for my last day to be October 2nd, which was last Thursday, and the conversation went well. I mean, like you say, don't burn bridges. That is the number one thing you should always not do. And I told my boss uh, at first he was concerned that I was going to a competitor. So he asked me, "Are you going to a competitor?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm actually going to the financial industry." And I told him I do want to leave in the best terms possible. I don't want to burn any bridges. And then he's like, "Oh, financial industry." He's like, "Okay." And then I explained to him what I was going to do and all. And he's like, "Oh, maybe I'll need to call you one day." I'm like, "Sure." So, when I left, it was in the best terms possible. And like you say, you leave the doors open. I mean, maybe not to come back to them, but maybe for a good recommendation if I find another opportunity also. So, but yeah, there is the opportunity to go back to them as well. So, and then the second question was about the year and a half. So they have trainings, like I said, and I kept going to them, and then they do conventions, and it's a national company, so they have this annual convention in July that they bring people from all over the country, and it was held in Sacramento at the Golden Arena, and we filled it up. It was like 15,000 people from the company. uh, and then they highlight the top people in the company there, and they give speeches and why you should consider this a career and all that, and it was an eye-opener. I found out the top agent nationally is an ex-engineer.
Okay.
And there's and I met several other engineers that were doing very well, and this top guy, ex-engineer, he makes $3 million a year in commissions. And I was like, whoa, okay. So yeah, those were eye openers. And then talking to people that didn't even have a high school education, and they were making significant amount of over six figures, kind of thing. And what hit me the most was this young 23-year-old kid that he told me what he was making. I'm like, that's more than what I've made in my whole career. So I'm like, okay, maybe there is something for me here. And yeah, that was in July, and then mid-August, like I said, I made the decision to resign, and then got the ball rolling. But again, the important thing too was that I passed my state test, and I got my license on my first attempt. So I'm like, oh wow, okay, because a lot of people, it takes like 2, 3, even 5 times or more to pass it, and then there's a shortage of agents in the industry. California has a major shortage of agents, so all those factors, I'm like, okay, I need to give this a try.
Okay, awesome. So you've literally answered the questions about how and what steps you needed to take to identify and determine that you wanted to literally, switch career fields from a salesperson into a financial advisor, right? And you also mentioned what skills are transferable, and you went into the credibility gaining and building relevant experience in order to transfer, and you mentioned the accreditation certification that you needed to take, so those are very valuable. So just recapping, you didn't just all of a sudden one day decide I'm going to quit, I'm going to jump into this
No.
other thing and try it out. So that's what I wanted to cover, and thank you for explaining that to us and to the audience. Lourdes also mentioned in order for an individual to transition from a particular field into another field is having a financial safety net, right? Like a savings account of sorts. So I'm pretty sure that you, Alex, have built a safety net of financial security, maybe 6 month savings account. Can you talk about, with your personal self, you don't have to give us exact amounts, but did you consider that in your transition or not really?
Oh yes, and the reason is that this industry, the financial industry, you don't get a salary. It's 100% commission based. So there's minuses and pluses to all that, but there are several good YouTube videos that I saw, and overall, most of them say if you ever find a commission opportunity, you should give it a shot. So that was an eye opener as well. Yes, with the salary, you have the comfort of you're gonna get paid and all, but you can work twice as hard and still get paid the same.
Mm,
But on commission, you work twice as hard. You're gonna make more than twice
mm,
uh, amount. So I mean, that's how these people are doing. 1.5 million commission a year, 3 million commission a year. I mean, they're working their butts off. But I was up. I was up for that challenge as well because my industry. I mean, I know a lot of engineers in the industry and all that. And one of the things we do are like 401k rollovers.
mhm,
So when you leave a company, it doesn't make sense to leave your 401k there anymore. You got to roll it over into something better. And there's a product called annuities
mhm,
that you're able to do that, and then your money keeps growing, and it's it's basically income for life kind of thing. That's how it's described. when you're in retirement. So the problem today with people actually is they're living longer than ever. So even if you have a 401k, you might run out of funds in your retirement. So annuities, even if you run out what you put in, they have to still keep paying you until you die.
Okay.
So things like that, and again, to me, it's about helping people, and what really made me go into this is that they focus first on financial education for people. Like, yes, there's products that to sell you and all, but the education is first, and that's why they hold the seminars that I went to, the workshops. I mean, the agents, they get called by the FBI and the IRS to come give financial training to their agents.
Wow. Okay.
So that's how impressive this is, and everyone needs to know about this stuff, this financial things, and the concept of paying yourself first. That's one of the keys to having a solid foundation. And part of that foundation, to answer your question, Lázaro, is yes, you have to have an emergency fund. And the rule of thumb is anywhere from 6 months to 1 year. 3 months used to be the old saying, but that's no longer advisable. So 6 months to a year. So hopefully I won't need to depend that much. I mean, I do have enough funds for even longer than a year saved up. But that was my other mistake. I thought that by having all that saved up, I was good and all. And now I'm seeing that I wasn't really prepared for retirement. So for me, it's valuable too, because it's going to allow me to prepare for retirement as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, as far and also teaching it to other people as well. Yeah.
Well, now we have a good financial advisor contact if we ever need one.
For sure.
Shifting over to Mr. Mike Cruz. We talked about, the whole transition and determining and identifying if you want to switch. And in this case, we see Alex Polo switching from being in STEM to more of a financial career aspect. But I want to get your perspective, sir, from what you've heard and what we've talked about so far. What do you believe individuals should do in order for them to identify that they really want to transfer or transition from any particular career into another one? And what skills should be transferable? And maybe how to build credibility and or relevant experience?
Well, I'll kind of talk around that subject, but let me give you two quick examples that I've seen in my long career. Changing jobs is it's different at different stages in your career. Okay, so the first example I have is a young man, graduated from SLO, worked at Cubic, had a good engineering job, and he decided, I want to start my own business. And so he thought his technical background in engineering, I can go into this my own business doing engineering type work, engineering support for the government, whatever. Well, when you're young and you're idealistic and you want to change from one job to another job, sometimes you don't make all those wise decisions that Polo has made. You got to have the financial stability. You got to know where you're going into. Well, to make a long story short, that first person lasted trying to build his own career, his own business. It lasted about 6 months. And he realized, oh, you know what? I don't have the contacts. I don't have the resources. He didn't have the staff, and it was a one-man business. So that venture failed. So he had to go back into engineering and he stayed in a stable job to fill out his career. The second example is an older person in his mid-career, maybe in his 50s, decided, my wife is sick. I need to do something. I want to find a cure. I want to find a cure for this disease my wife has. And he had a nice job. He left it on good terms, and he went over into trying to create a whole new genre for fixing this disease. Well, idealistic as it was, and all the planning that it did, the idea never really materialized. Okay, so he tried it for a year. Da 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 da. He had to go back into at a later and as a later in career, you just can't walk back into a job anymore. You know, if you're 50 and you're in the engineering field, they want the younger engineers. So as an older person, you can't go back in. And so he had a problem of that. So he founded his own company. So he had to do that, and he went from engineering. He was a consultant for computer integrity. So he still had his engineering background, but he used that to develop a company that liability issues with contracts in computer industry. And he went into that kind of the arena. So the bottom line is when you transition from one job to another, you got to have those transferable skills, and you have to know what they are, and you have to know if they're going to fit into the new arena. And they don't have to be exactly what you're doing. If you're doing engineering, like chip design, you have certain skills that you can take over. Like Lourdes says, maybe you don't need the soft skills, or you don't have the soft skills. But if you're later on in life and you developed in your job and you grew, you have developed those management skills along the way, and so those will help you transition. Like for Polo, you know, I think he had in sales, he had some of those soft skills that were transferable directly over into what he needed to do. The technical stuff will come. And Polo, I think you're right. As long as you can bring the basic assets to the new job, they will provide you the information or training that you're going to need. But the bottom line is making that decision. There's different reasons for doing that, and it's not just money. So I'm finding out I want a new start in life. I want to do something different, and it's basically not about money. It's about, I think it's kind of a quality of life issue that you bring with it, because you want to be happy, and if you're not happy in your present job, and maybe Polo can kind of talk about that a little bit. Was he really happy in his old job, and he saw a new avenue that I could be happier if I do this? Right. So I think a lot of it is a quality of life issue, and with that you have to do some stable planning for the future, your retirement, your financial stability, your family life, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, sir. Going over to you, Polo, you have your hand raised, and maybe you can answer Mr. Mike Cruz's comment about, you know, being happy in your previous position and what your expectations are as far as happiness with this new position.
Yeah, totally. So I will say that it wasn't an easy decision, because it was my 25-year career that I really have enjoyed, and helping a lot of people, a lot of engineers design their machines. I mean, I even worked with NASA engineers to 2 years of my career were dedicated to the James Webb Space Telescope that was built by Northrop in LA, in El Segundo. And yeah, I was part of the design to make sure it opened correctly. So when it was launched and it was opening up, I'm like, you better open up completely, because you're going to be a $8 billion pilot trash in outer space,
right? Just floating around, right?
Yeah. So all those, are the highlights of my career, and yeah, I didn't want to leave that, but at the same time, in my life, I mean, you're aware, Lázaro, that my parents were killed by a drunk driver 19 years ago. So since then too, I was like, why didn't I know about life insurance? Why didn't I know about, how to protect somebody, and when this opportunity came up, I felt like a calling to me, that I'm like, now I will be able to teach people the importance of life insurance, long-term care, living benefits, because people think that life insurance is just when you die, but no, modern life insurance plans are also when you're alive, you can use the benefits long-term care, and they call them living benefits. And then some people say, well, I don't need life insurance because my job gives me life insurance. And the question is, okay, yeah, but what about if you leave your job? You're going to lose that. So, private plans are I think the way to go now that I've learned all this. And I mean, the first thing I did when I was taking the workshops and everything, I got my own private plan. I'm like, screw the company's insurance plan. And even though I'm single, I don't have kids, I'm still thinking about the living benefits that I would get from the life insurance if something were to happen to me where I need nursing care and need to pay for expensive things like that. So, but I was happy in my career. I mean, if this opportunity hadn't come my way, maybe I would never have left it. And another thing Mike said that I did think about was my age. So I am 50 now, and yeah, I mean, actually, some people. I came to the trade show earlier, and I was talking to some of my friends, and I'm like, yeah, I guess if it doesn't work out for me in a year, you'll see me back here. So, I mean, I think yeah, age is a factor, but I think my skills in this industry have put me in a position where I'm very well known for these skills, and I even get competitors reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they're like, so many people have told me to talk to you because you'd be a perfect fit for us, and I'm like, thank you, and I'm like, but no thanks, and all that. But and then yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, at least till today, I get job offers every 2 weeks on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But some of them, of course, they're not related to my industry. They're other type of sales, and I pass on those. But some of them are interesting, and who knows? I mean, the future's uncertain, and in a year I might be like, oh, this wasn't for me, and I should go back. But yeah. Anyway, for now, I'm very optimistic, and it looks good.
Time will tell. And
Yes.
yeah, we definitely wish you the best in that. I see Paul Montoya joined us. Paul, I know that you actually had a little bit of a stint of being a consultant of sorts, right? And two things for you. We're talking about transitioning careers, maybe not to the same field of industry STEM that you're in, but for you, because you are a consultant or contractor, I want to explore how that went, what and how did that take place, what lessons did you learn, maybe that you can share with us. Paul, I don't know if you can turn on your mic.
Yep. Hey guys. Yeah, so this is an interesting topic, and Polo, I would assume that one thing we don't get a lot of in engineering when you're going through school and even in the professional ranks is you're not, maybe I'm the only one and maybe I'm out on an island, but I feel like we're lacking in financial education. You know what I mean? I feel like if we had a better financial education, maybe back in 2016, I wouldn't have sent a bunch of money to China to buy Bitcoin miners. Maybe I would have hold on to that house as an investment and got, and done, made different decisions in my life. Maybe I'd have Einstein's eighth wonder of the world of compound interest working for me instead of against me by having credit card debt. But I think the majority of Americans, engineers included, because we don't have this solid foundation of financial literacy, is we make mistakes along the way. We live outside our means. We get high interest credit card debt. We kind of get in trouble. And in my career, I tried to do all the right things. Like I saw the horror stories as a result of getting, having mentors like you guys. I saw, that, hey, maybe coming out of college, I don't want to go work for Intel. Why is that? I don't want to get locked into a single skill set. So, so I took a different path. It was kind of by accident. I kind of stumbled. My first job out of college was with a company called EMC, and EMC wasn't really well known. But what EMC did back in the 90s, with IBM had 90% market share in the mainframe, is EMC overtook IBM in the mainframe space. And then they took over storage. We know how that story ends. Dell bought EMC for $67 billion, got him a seat at the big boy table, and they spun off Dell Technologies. And so, so I am a consultant. I fell into a 3% niche of IT industry, and that is my title used to be, I was a storage engineer, an expert in storage area networks and fiber channel and back-end storage and data. And I thought that would keep me employed. Every time I was in between jobs or I was looking for a new job, I felt like I was a free agent in the NFL picking my new team. Like there were tons of opportunities, six-figure salaries were guaranteed. If I wanted to make more money, I would go into technical sales, and I did. And so I was doing all that. And then one day we woke up and all these layoffs started happening in the IT world, mainly, for different reasons, what have you. But it was really a shocker for me because I was used to being that NFL free agent. I didn't have one skill set. I had a skill set that any company would need and should need, and that was data protection, anything related to data. Our titles changed from storage engineer to cloud architects, right? When cloud came out, it made me laugh because cloud has been out forever. All that is a remote data center. It's just Amazon did a great job of orchestrating it and, pull my finger at storage type of mentality. And they just did a great way of marketing it, and everybody followed suit. So I was kind of left out in the cold for a while there, but thank God I got reconnected with SHIP. Really, I kind of dusted off the resume, figured out what lingo the kids are using, and I easily I got back into contractor employment, to kind of ride the wave out. I even knocked out a master's in management just for giggles in case I wanted to do that. So just like Polo, you just got to retool. And when if something dries up, you got to retool and you got to grind. But all that being said, getting back to the financial literacy, during that process of me retooling, I started hanging out with more entrepreneurs. And these entrepreneurs are really a funny breed, is because you realize that the mentality of an employee is different than a mentality of a business owner, and it's different than a mentality of an entrepreneur. The mindset is different. And as you navigate that journey and you change your mindset, you realize the most important thing isn't how much money you're making on your job. The most important thing is how much time you have, how much free time do you have, to do the things you want to do. And so many of us are slaves to our job. And I love now hanging out with these entrepreneurs is because they're putting me on a path and putting me on a journey to earn your own financial freedom so that you can live your best life when you're, like my son's 20 years old. I'm hoping he can live his best life, take finances off the table by the time he's 25. And, I'm 48, so my goal is similar. And I put my thing in the LinkedIn for anyone who wants to have that conversation. But boy, I would love to pick Polo's brain because 401ks, pensions, it's like nothing is enough anymore, especially with the new generation and how the dollar and like the eye-opening was my son. He graduated same degree I got, and he was given the same salary I got when I got out of college. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's like breakfast burritos were $3 back then, and now they're 12. Yeah. Like how long is it going to take him to get to six figs? And the middle class is disappearing. And so all this just tells me is that we got to do something. We got to think out of the box. We got to think like a rich person, think like an entrepreneur, do better with our investments so that we're not slaves to the 9 to 5. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Polo, you have your hand up, sir? And then.
Yeah, no. Just gonna follow up on what Paul said, and he hit the nail on the head. I mean, this financial literacy thing is something that people shouldn't be ashamed of that they don't know, because this is exactly what we teach people, that the system is made so that people do not get educated on this, because that would drive banks out of business, basically. So the concepts are so basic that, when I started meeting the different agents and all, and then they're all, oh, you're an engineer, so you already know all this, right? It's numbers and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't know any of this. So that's why that's been the success of this company. It's a company that's been in the industry 30 years, but today there's over 45,000 agents across the country, and there's still a shortage of agents across the country overall in the industry. So So the potential for growth is even bigger.
I'm gonna kind of close it out and see around the room. Mr. Mike Cruz, any final thoughts, sir? Okay.
Let me get my mic going here.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
It's interesting that the transition from one job to another is kind of focusing around finances. And I guess that's always been a weak point that I've seen over the years for all the young engineers, is that financial literacy is not there. And we need to make our people more aware of that. And like you say, the entrepreneur, the business person, and the 9 to 5 are 3 different mindsets of how you look at your job. For me, my mindset was I love my 9 to 5. I loved working in the lab. I was stable. I was secure. I was allowed to grow within the job. And so the finances kept growing more and more each year. But it wasn't until about maybe 15 or 20 years into my career that we finally I finally brought in a financial planner to come into the laboratory on her own time to talk about financial planning for my government employees. And it was amazing. Like Paul and Polo are saying, we're uneducated. And I was amazed that they didn't know about retirement. They didn't know about savings, And so I'm sure that today's young person, Lourdes and Diego, boy, how do you navigate your future? How do you navigate what it's going to cost to survive in this survive? The housing market in San Diego is $1 million for a damn 3-bedroom house. That's unreal. In my day, it was 30,000. So I'm sure that to navigate in today's arena for survival financially is going to be a tenuous one. And so I think Polo and Paul are suggesting, hey, get financial literacy and trying to understand what the future is going to be. And good luck to you, young people.
Thank you, sir.
And you old people.
Little parenthesis there. I interviewed Sylvia Acevedo, who used to be the CEO and for the Girl Scouts of America a couple years back, and she did mention that she wishes more individuals, more STEM individuals, who became more financially literate, right? So I think it's a reoccurring topic, and I think that's why we do bring this. Transitioning careers is important, but also the whole aspect of how and why is also important. But being financially savvy and financially quote unquote secure and knowledgeable is also important. So just take that into consideration. Diego, any final thoughts, sir, from you?
Thank you for the space.
Awesome. Lourdes, any final thoughts?
I would agree with the financial literacy, but I would also say it's not that hard. You just learn the lingo, numbers make sense. There's financial advisors. You can talk to your bank. There's so many ways to go about it. You just gotta seek out some resources and do it. That's the biggest one.
All right. Thank you. Paul Montoya, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay.
It's hard not to spend that money once it starts coming in. Wife needs a new pair of shoes. Believe me, Lourdes, it's hard. Wife needs a new picket fence. The house is never done. Yeah, it's difficult. So appreciate all the advice we can get.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Polo, any final thoughts, sir?
Yeah, we need to learn this financial literacy so that we don't make mistakes. I've done mistakes. I mean, at one point in my career, I cashed out my 401k, which would now be worth 300K. But the worst part is by retirement, it would have been 1.2 million. So I did cheat myself on that, but never too late to start. And if anyone's interested in taking our workshops and getting more financial education, shoot me a text on my LinkedIn profile is my business page, link to my business website, and yeah, I'll be happy to hook you up with financial education for free. We don't charge for that at all.
Thank you, Alex. And with that, thanks everybody. Definitely appreciate everybody coming to Cafecito Chats today, and we'll see you next time. Hasta luego. Bye bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Lázaro.
Thank you.